It is my pleasure now to invite Shri Puneet Chhatwal, MD, CEO of India Hotel Companies Limited for the keynote address.
Good evening, dignitaries on the dais. Namaskar, pranam. Colleagues, friends, a lot of seniors sitting in the first few rows. I would first say welcome to Goa. Okay, let's try. Could you raise the volume? Now it's okay? Okay, so welcome to Goa and welcome to Taj in Goa. Before I start the speech that I'm going to make, I would like all of you to recognize the incredible contribution made by a family to create an inevitable success, structure, path for hospitality in Goa, and that's Mrs. Timblo and her family. 505 rooms in a beautiful setting, so I think this is what shows the power of when we come together, what we can achieve. So what makes us incredible? I think important is we are talking about tourism at 2047. We have recently celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. You know, actually India has come a very long way, but very swiftly. I think none of us realized, and all that happened in the last 5-7 years in a manner that nobody expected. And some of these figures that I'm going to run by are very, very important. In terms of GDP, we stand as number 5th in the world. In terms of contribution to the global GDP, 1947, 3%, today 7%, in 5 to 7 years, maybe 10% of global GDP. That means a double-digit contribution coming from India. Who would have thought this is possible? If you look at the per capita income, from 250 rupees in 1947 to 1,85,000 today, and rising exponentially every year. And why is that happening? That is happening because we had 100 million, one of the reasons, there are several reasons. One of the reasons is there were 100 million people employed in 1947. Today it is 600 million, and the world employment is 3.6 billion. That means 1 out of every 6 persons employed in the globe comes from India, and that is what is making a difference. The literacy rate, from a land of snake charmers, having a literacy rate of 27% at the time of independence, today to 85%. So these are some of the figures. I think we all read about it, but it's nice to repeat them. You know, it makes you feel proud. You can relate. Why are you becoming incredible? Number of airports, this is very relevant for our sector, from 10 to 150, and from 150, sir, going to 300. Very soon, the renaissance of the train stations, the 6-lane highways, you know, millions of square kilometers being built in a speed and in a fashion which in a federal system, we take it for granted, but it's not that easy to do. So there is a lot of incredible things happening as we speak. But what changed recently? Something changed recently. That was how India managed COVID. I think the finest management, and that applause we can give to everyone who did it. In terms of lockdown, in terms of opening up, in terms of doing what was right, started with creation of 200 million vaccines supplied to 100 plus countries from India. I mean, who would have thought this is possible? India's landing on the moon, the south pole of the moon, not only did we land there, the budget for that project was on an average the budget of one Hollywood film. So it's not only done in time, it's not only done with grace, it was not only done successfully, it was done with a very limited amount of budget. And most recently, they talked about mission on the sun. So from medical to space to all kinds of technologies, India is making a very, very big mark. And as per all the pundits, as per all the gurus, it should become the third largest economy by 2027. And third largest economy, and the contribution that it will do to per capita income, which would mean higher disposable income, which would mean higher spend, and that is the best thing that can happen to all members of FHRAI because we stand to benefit from it. Only thing is, I'll come to how we can accelerate that in the years to come. Very important is also the fact that we have a young demographic population on our side, and that makes it, like almost 67, which means 2/3 of India's population is between 15 to 65 years. So that demographic dividend is what we have today, which is very, very important also for the tourism potential. We read the message from the Honorable Prime Minister. We talk about Viksit Bharat, we talk about Atulya Bharat, and that is possible, and the contribution of tourism can be immense. With 6 mountain ranges of thousands of square kilometers of area, with coastline of 7,500 kilometers, with UNESCO, World Heritage UNESCO sites, nobody has. Even Greece does not have half of what India has. I think we are very well positioned. And I think it is not just the positioning, it is just the way it is moving, and domestic sector is, or the domestic tourism is making it happen faster and faster. I think this is one sector which not only earns foreign exchange, this is one sector which works with the construction sector, with the agriculture, it promotes local art, it promotes local artisans, it creates jobs, it is the highest multiplicator of job as per global data. One job in this sector creates 10 jobs in other sectors, like milk suppliers, vegetable suppliers, like promoting local heritage, local culture, and nobody knows that better than our Honorable Tourism Minister or the leadership in the state of Goa, what this sector can do. I think when we come to the opportunity, Pradeep Shetty was right. He gave the data which includes unorganized sector as well. But even if we took the data for organized sector, we are at 43 million jobs today. This could easily be 100 million. And the double-digit growth to tourism or from tourism as contribution to GDP is more or less like a no-brainer. It's happened in every country. I don't see any reason why it should not happen in India. Some things we need to change. Foreign tourist arrivals includes the Indian diaspora with OCI card. That's not really a foreign tourist arrival. Technically it is, but practically it is not. They've just come to visit their families. So I think that kind of how we read that data is very important, but we have a very, very long way to go there, but we also have a lot of time to get there till we get to 2047. I think if we look at the CAGR from almost a $250 billion contribution, this could double over the next few years or triple, and then it could grow exponentially as our infrastructure would have improved, as our infrastructure would have grown, and we could have a chance of becoming the third largest tourism country in the world. We are currently ranked at number 8. 6 P's, which I call, which are very important. Mr. Shetty has mentioned most of them, so I'll not go into too much detail. I think planning is one of those, how we plan these infrastructures and how we create the ancillary infrastructure around it so we can have an exponential growth. The places, I think smaller places need to be developed, but we cannot ignore the larger ones because the larger ones will need to carry the weight of the smaller ones. You need to get to a small destination. That reminds me, I started my career with my first, after my training program, my job in Patna. And Patna was one of the hubs to go to Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Lumbini, etc. So you need a Patna to serve Bodh Gaya. You can't straight go to Bodh Gaya. Yes, of course, with the change in infrastructure, you could build an airport, but that airport will also need to be financially feasible. So there is a right kind of mix that is needed in business, tourism, spiritual tourism kind of business that works 365 days and 24/7. People is very important. Many times we think of this sector as a luxury sector. I'm sorry. 90% of the supply of hotel rooms in this country is in non-luxury. We think we can charge high GST, as Mr. Shetty has mentioned. Please do, but at least be nice in doing so that there is no difference. You dine in a restaurant in this hotel, you pay 18%, you go outside the hotel, you pay 5%. So I'm not here to divide, but I think some kind of alignment is needed so that we can grow the talent, we can grow the people, we can provide them education, we can provide them skilling. We as an organization have committed to skill 100,000 people by 2030. We are ahead of our guidance for the nation. But I think 100,000 is not enough. We need several millions of people to be skilled by the sector. So the sector can be an enabler to do so. We also need some kind of a tailwind and some help. In terms of policy making, I don't know how often we have spoken about infrastructure status at the center level, industry status at states level. I would urge all states that have not yet given the industry status, all union territories that have not done so, to please do so. It is to your benefit, because that capital otherwise will flow elsewhere into another sector that will not multiply jobs. We make a mistake when we think about how much value creation is happening in startups, yes, but job creation does not happen to that extent in a startup as it happens in our sector. I think in terms of processes, in terms of promotion, how we promote every state, how we promote every destination is really very, very important. So I think these are some kind of elements. I don't want to go into so much of detail because I think Mr. Shetty put it very much in depth. Otherwise, it may not sound as a conference from incredible to inevitable. It might sound as like kind of a complaining. We don't want to complain. We are happy. We are happy. We happily contribute. We happily contributed during COVID for frontline workers. We happily contributed through meals. We happily contributed through whatever we say. I see Dr. Suri here. She contributes maybe the most through the minorities and the challenged community through her brand, which is not the largest, but maybe is the finest in that form. So I think there are so many other chains sitting here in the front who have taken lead in terms of sustainability standards or in terms of lobbying with the government, representing your industry, your sector, to create the advancement that is much needed, instead of the perception that these people are always in air-conditioned atmosphere in five-star hotels. Yes, for such conventions we are, but we are also a very small percentage of the top elite. The real worker, the real talent works 24 hours, 365 days. When everybody else is celebrating Diwali or Christmas or New Year, there are people working in these places. They are not celebrating. And they don't start celebrating till others have stopped celebrating. I think to conclude, I would say the timing could not have ever been better or right than it is today. If you have GDP growth on your side, if you are a fast-growing nation, if your infrastructure is improving, if your industries are thriving, if people of Indian origin are leading global conglomerates, you all know who they are. If we are making positive noise on the geopolitical side, India is a friend of everyone. Forget the incidents of last 2 days, but the role that under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, India is playing is unbelievable. I would have never guessed, having lived 3 decades outside of India, that the world leaders will be taught the jadoo ki jappi, right? So, on the world stage, to see that happen makes you feel proud. So I think all that is going, and one thing we should know that FHRAI is a very important part of the tourism sector. It's a very important part of the institution of faith. We have other associations, whether it's IATO or HAI or etc. We all need to work together. We need to come together so that we can do the best for our sector. As in the beginning, we paid tribute to Mr. Tata. One of the things he was quoted for, although the quote came from the origin of the quote is elsewhere, but mostly it is associated with him. And he said, when you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. So I think we need to walk together with the government, with the bureaucracy, with all of us in hotels and restaurants, and all our associations together, and not just look at the short-term picture, but at the medium and long-term picture. The future is very good, and I'm very blessed and very fortunate to have had the opportunity to speak in front of you, but also to be a part of this sector for 4 decades. Thank you very much.